What's up, duelists? Your boy is back with a brand new Gladiator Beast list. I'm playing Prisma today instead of my patented hamsters because of the recent Speed Duel Secret Prisma release, which looks super cool. Anyway, before we get into today's video, before I explain the build, before we talk about all the good stuff, make sure and sign up for RBET if you haven't already. RBET, Los Angeles, Maryland, New York, they're filling up quick. I think Los Angeles is approaching the halfway full mark, so just heads up, if you guys want to play in these events, probably should sign up for them as soon as possible. They probably will sell out. They're the biggest Edison tournaments all year. The links in the description below is where you can find the sign up stuff, and then there's some online ones coming up too as well. So make sure you guys are, if you guys want to play competitive Edison format, check those out. All right. This build is something that's like kind of an amalgamation of the last two builds that I played. But one of the biggest cards, the kind of the centerpiece, like both literally and figuratively, is Forbidden Chalice. I think this card's fantastic in Glads. It just lets you play like an idiot into set monsters pretty freely. You can do stuff like just test Tiger into Secutor and then just swing into any set monster and it's going to be fine if you have Chalice. Because if it's Raikou, you just Chalice negate the Raikou and then you get your Secutor +5 and then you win the game immediately. So I love this card. I think it's great, especially now in a very value-focused metagame. It has a lot of other applications. I've played very similar lists with 2 Forbidden Chalice online before a lot, and I've uploaded a lot of those videos to members only. So if you're a recent member or if you want to become a member, you can check out the members only video for a lot more content regarding Forbidden Chalice and Glads. I'm playing 1 Prisma because it's alright. It's solid. It's kind of like a second best Yari in a lot of situations. It combos with Tiger. You got to play Rescue Cat. I think Rescue Cat's like the best card in Gladiator Beasts, like the best single card. It's a 1-card Heraclinos, especially if you're playing Secutor. I think you do have to play Secutor. If you're not playing it, like, what are you doing? It's kind of just the best card in the deck. Rescue Cat tags into Samnite and Test Tiger, and that gets you into Secutor, and then you can Secutor, get any 2 Glads, usually Laquari or some combination of the other guys, and then you get to make Heraclinos for 1 card, which is insanely powerful. I obviously can't overstate how powerful that is. Rest of the main deck is pretty standard. The one thing I'm doing differently is I'm playing a second Samnite over the second eQuest. I found that when playing Rescue Cat specifically, and also just these like hyper-focused triple Tiger builds, having the second Samnite comes up a little bit more than the second eQuest. You can usually make do with 1 eQuest, but it's pretty difficult to make do with only 1 Samnite. If you draw the Samnite, it instantly kills your Rescue Cat, which kind of sucks. So I think having 2 Samnite is really important. The trap lineup, double Waboku, I think this is pretty staple for Glads. Having a chainable trap of some kind, especially Waboku, is just really nice. Waboku really helps in a lot of tough matchups, particularly like OTK focused matchups, or when your opponent goes for like big sweeping cards, like Giant Trinade from Dragon Turbo, or like Cold Wave from Light Sworns. Just those cards that typically make it really difficult for Glads to win. Waboku is perfect in those situations, and just being chainable is really nice. Combos well with Secutor, of course, and just saves your ass so many times. I think having 2 of this card is pretty standard. The rest of the trap lineup is kind of just like standard, I'd say, but 1 Compulse, 1 Dust Tornado. These are just like tech slots. I think you could play anything in these 2 slots, but for me, the meta game is like Vayu Turbo, and I think Dust Tornado and Compulsory Evacuation Device are really good against Vayu Turbo. And I actually think Dust Tornado is not too bad right now, even against the frog decks that are floating around, because a lot of them are playing trap cards. And if you get paired up against frogs, you kind of win anyway. So it's nice to just have that extra out to Royal Oppression and that extra chainable into turn 1 set Raikou. Compulsory, just solid card all around. It helps you do a lot of stuff utility-wise. It can clear Synchro monsters like Stardust, which can normally be trouble for this deck. Sideboard, 2 Cyber Dragons for machines. That matchup's kind of tricky. It also helps you just play through bottomless things that stop your normal summon, because this deck is fairly normal summon reliant. As you'll see, the only way to play through a normal summon stop in the entire main deck is Call of the Haunted, or technically Book of Moon. But yeah, pretty much if your opponent has like a significant mass of normal summon stops, it can be very difficult to actually play or win. That's why another reason why I really like the Dust Tornado is because it helps clear those back row and make sure your normal summon gets through. Second Ready Ari, this comes up against frogs. I think it's actually really important to have 2 Ready Ari somewhere in your deck. I know some people have even mained the second one, but yeah, definitely you want to. I think it just comes up a lot. 1 Gramble helps against Vayu Turbo, most popular deck. Gores, this is for Blackwings. Also helps you play through the normal summon issue. One Thunder King. This guy just has a lot of applications and a lot of matchups. He's good versus zombies. He's good versus like various decks. He baits bottomless. It's just a solid card. It's good versus Dragon Turbo, which is not super popular, but popular enough. It's good versus dragons in general, which is just a bad matchup for this deck. So I like having an extra card that's kind of a catch-all. It can also help you versus Lightsworn, which is a pretty difficult matchup in some instances. 1900 stat line is really nice, and the fact that it can negate Judgment Dragon and Christia is also really nice. Giant Trinade for heavy back row. I'm not really high on this card. I may cut it for another Thunder King or something of that nature. Possibly Light Mirror is a card I've been considering with the rise of the light decks. I think Light Mirror is definitely worth considering, but it does conflict a little bit with Prisma and the Thunder Kings, so I'm reworking that sort of thought process on that. Double D Fissure, I rarely side these in, but they're mostly for Lightsworn. Dandelion decks, they're also pretty good there. They're also decent versus Value Turbo. Actually, you know what? They're pretty good versus most decks. I just don't side them in against certain decks that people think that you would side them in against. Like, I don't side these in versus Frogs unless I'm specifically going first and it's like a more combo focused variant, but generally speaking, it's not the best against Frogs going second because it just gives them a Monarch target. It's like kind of a sitting card that doesn't actively affect the game when you can just banish the 2 Treeborns, which are the only cards that matter, easily with Ready Ari. So you don't really need to have D-Fissure. You could have more active cards that interact with the tree, because your engine already interacts with Treeborn, and Treeborn's the only thing that the Monarch deck cares about for the graveyard. Like, if you have D-Fissure up, it actively kind of hurts you as well. You can't use Rescue Cat, you can't use Prisma. It makes your Equest and Darius a lot worse. So D-Fissure can actually end up hurting you a lot more, especially, let's say they rise it. I mean, it's just fucking brutal. It's really, really hard to come back from that. So against Frogs, I actually don't love this card, but there are a lot of matchups where it does shine. Like, it's pretty good versus Dragon Turbo, and it's pretty good versus Value Turbo. Versus Value Turbo, it's nice too. It's kind of like extra Forbidden Chalice. If you go like normal summon guy, activate D-Fissure, attack their set monster, and it's a Raikou, they have to pick between letting you get a tag or popping the D-Fissure. And oftentimes they're forced to pop the D-Fissure, so you just get your tag, which is really, really nice. Second Dust Tornado for Royal Oppression. D-Prison, it's just extra removal. I think this could also come out for something a little bit more high impact. Like, I was thinking definitely like Light Mirror could be in the spot, maybe another Starlight Road, something like that degree. One Trap does shoot. This definitely comes in a couple different matchups, but I don't like starting it in this deck because it doesn't impact the board, and this deck is already very slow on the tempo side, so I like the trap cards to impact the board if possible. One Chariot, again, there are some matchups where you want the third. I don't think you need to start 3 because it's like kind of mid versus Blackwings, and it's like not the best versus Value Turbo either. But you definitely want the third versus like Frogs and like some other random decks that just spam effect monsters like fairies. Trap Stun, pretty important card. Just for big sweeping back row clears, helps a lot versus Hero Beat. Hero Beat is actually a pretty tough matchup with this deck, but if you can resolve like a Trap Stun and then a Secutor hit and stick Heraclinos, their deck can sometimes really, really struggle to deal with Heraclinos. So that's kind of the game plan versus Hero Beat, and Dark Bribe also helps with that as well. Dark Bribe is just a catch-all. I like to board it in alongside the D-Fissures just to have that extra kind of Starlight Road stop. It can also be used to stop things like Deck Devastation Virus, Icarus Attack, those types of cards. So this is pretty much like my like stock Gladiator Beast list as of right now. I've been really happy with the chalices. Let's just hop into the replays. I know you guys are like sick of hearing me explain shit. Anyway, this is the first replay I've got for you guys. I lose the rock, paper, scissors, which is pretty classic. I'm actually going to show both hands because you guys might want to see the opponent's deck as well. This is the most recent top 8 Evil Hero Dark Gaia deck that top 8'd the RBET. So pretty solid deck. Really, really strong deck. A lot of upside. And you'll see my hand is pretty strong. I've got the Solemn Judgment and I've got the Chalice going second, which is the reason I play this card, is to improve going second into set monsters. Opponent starts with set, pass. Now, I don't really understand why he sets the Miracle Fusion here. It might be a bait, but I think it's a little bit silly. I think if I was my opponent, I would not have set the Miracle Fusion, or I would have set the Mirror Force. One way or the other, I think setting Miracle Fusion is a little silly. He might be trying to bait Heavy Storm or Space Typhoon, but if anything, if you're doing that, then set Giant Trinade is a little bit better because this Miracle Fusion is kind of your only payoff that this hand has. You can Miracle away the Snowman and the Malicious Edge if the Malicious Edge gets stopped. But generally speaking, I would like setting the Mirror Force here. I think it's a little bit better of a play from the opponent. I start off with normal Darius, attack. I Chalice the Snowman Eater in order to get my tag. I usually see Snowman Eater in Diva Hero decks, so I'm a little bit cautious of Caius. I just want to pop this Snowman Eater. with my Murmillo as soon as possible. So pop the Snowman, set 3, pass. He draws into Neospacian Gramble. He activates Giant Trunade. I'm pretty much forced to Solemn this because if he runs over the Murmillo, then my whole hand is just gone. So yeah, pretty much forced to Solemn. He summons Gramble. He attacks. We can book Gramble, so that's a nice, easy Gramble kill. He's going to set a back row and pass. I'm going to go for a play that maybe is a little silly, but after seeing the Giant Trunade, I'm thinking his deck is a little bit less back row heavy, like so back row light, in fact, that he probably isn't playing Starlight Road. And I'm willing to take a risk with a Geyserist popping both back row into Solemn Judgment. So I'm going to set Bestiary. I'm going to go Geyserist. And if he has Solemn, that sucks. But if he doesn't have Solemn, then we're big chilling. We pop both back row and we get to kill the Neospacian Gramble. And that's exactly what happens. We pop both back row. We're able to tag out. And our position is still pretty precarious. I'm going to go Ready Ari, banish the Snowman Eater. But even like a Stratos here is still really good for the opponent. Because he'll say, let's say he has Stratos Miracle. He goes Stratos. We Chariot the guy. Then he Miracles. He banishes the Earth and the Stratos. And that's pretty bad for us. So I want to just make sure he can't make an absolute 0, because that's like worst case scenario. He's going to summon Big Piece Golem, confirming that he is on the Evil Hero Dark Gaia deck. And that's not a terrible situation for us, because the Quarry can always trade with it. And then we can connect with Samnite and special summon something back. So that's pretty good. Or add something back in this case. So yeah, Samnite's going to connect. Samnite just being another Glad that can tag is kind of nice here. That can tag into a quest specifically. Now imagine if we had had an quest there, this would have been a lot worse. He draws, he sets a back row, he decides not to play the Prisma into a possible War Chariot, but honestly what he could have done was summon the Prisma and just attack. Usually the Glad decks have like a random War Chariot sitting around that's just dead, so he doesn't have to activate the effect. Kind of hoping to pull off that Call of the Haunted move, but yeah, he just passes back to us, and not attacking there is going to cost him, being a little bit afraid of our back row. Honestly, because he had the Call of the Haunted, I think forcing the back row with the Prisma is not a bad place to be. Because if our back row stops the Call of the Haunted, then he's just stuck with his Prisma in hand, which is really awkward. We go 16, 18. We're able to tag out. Can't tag into Bestiary because then we'll pop our own Chariot, which is a little annoying. But we can make Heraclinos, which is really nice. And that can negate any sort of like Dark Calling or anything. So a couple mistakes from the opponent, and that's going to cost him the game. I think he had a few chances. Like if he had set the Mirror Force turn 1 instead of setting the Miracle Fusion for some fucking reason, that would have been really good. And then also had he summoned the Prisma and like tried to attack over the Quest, that would have been really good. But in that case, it's just tough, right? Because then we get Laquari, and Laquari can run over, like he knows we have Laquari, so Laquari can run over the Prisma, and it's like, it's kind of damned if you don't situation. So, but I think he had some chances to make some different plays that could have affected that game. Anyway, sideboarding is pretty straightforward in this matchup. This is actually a great matchup for Forbidden Chalice. It completely stops Evil Hero Dark Gaia, and it's chainable. Same thing with Wabaku. So our chainables in this matchup are really nice. Forbidden Chalice also pumps up our monsters so it can run over that Big Piece Golem or that Cyber Dragon or that Stratos or whatever issue beat stick that they summon. Forbidden Chalice helps out there as well. Wabaku just fantastic. It's a chainable under stuff like Trap Stun, which that deck is known to play. We do get to bring in Dark Bribe, which is nice. This can stop the fusion spells. It can also stop Trap Stun, unlike Starlight Road, which can't stop Trap Stun. We get to bring in our, I believe, I forget what else we bring in. I think Grand Mole is one of the cards we bring in. I think we just bring in like Bribe, Grand Mole, and I don't really remember what else. But we keep the sideboarding really simple because our deck has a pretty good matchup as long as it's resolving the cards it needs to resolve. Anyway, the opponent's stuff here is how do you say it? Bricked. He doesn't have a starter, so he's forced to just set his guy and pass. I probably wouldn't have set this guy if I was him, because if we just attack into it, it's bad for him. I summoned Laquari and pass, but proved me wrong, honestly, because I didn't attack into it thinking it might be Snowman Eater, so I just pass. He draws into Caius, which is pretty good for him. He goes for Brain Control. Now, in this circumstance, if we lose our Laquari, we lose the game. So I have to Solemn this. If he Heavy Storms, that fucking sucks, right? But that means he has to have Brain Heavy in the top 7, make him have it. And then on top of that, like, if we lose this Laquari, the game ends anyway. It doesn't matter if, like, if he has Heavy or not. So we just can't afford to let Brain Control resolve. Thankfully for us, he doesn't have Heavy Storm. He does have Caius, but that's going to be met with Gladiator Beast War Chariot. He's going to set his Miracle Fusion. Yet again, a patented play from the opponent. Sets Return from the Different Dimension as well. Both these cards good to set here. I would have probably also set the Trap Stun if I was him, but who knows. Anyway, we attack for 18. We're able to tag out the Laquari. I'm a little bit wary of going Bestiari into 2 back row because of the prevalence of Bottomless Trap Hole. So I decided to go Rediari, try to banish the Caius, keep a potential, what's his name? Evil Hero Dark Gaia weaker. Little did I know that plays kind of into return. But I weighed my options. I'm like, if he has return for 1, like, that sucks. But we have 2 battle traps, you know. And that's going to cost him 2,700. He sets 2 more cards. And I just, you know, don't want to play into anything else. So here we're going to check for Bottomless Trap Hole. I'm going to go for 1,200. And then I'm going to tag into, I believe, I forget what I tag into here. A quest, that's right, to add back the Chariot. He has no Bottomless here. He thinks for a moment, which tells me Torrential Tribute. So I'm like, okay, I don't need to summon anymore. I can just set Chariot and pass. He draws Mirror Force, sets it, passes. We draw Wabaku, which is an insane draw, especially in this matchup. This card is so good. I actually think this might be one of the best cards in the current metagame. Wabaku Threatening Roar, high tier cards in today's metagame. Very, very strong. Chainable cards that allow you to just have the turn back are just so incredibly strong. In like the hyper developed Edison metagame. I just uploaded a members only video yesterday, or this morning. I can't really tell. Time is an illusion. But I uploaded a members only video that's playing a really sick deck that utilizes 3 Threatening Roars. So once again, if you become a member today, you get a really sick deck profile later on. And I think Threatening Roar and Wabaku are just fantastic in today's metagame. Just like being chainable into Raikou, being able to stop those big OTKs from Dragon Turbo, being able to just buy you a turn when so many decks have great comeback plays like Debris Dragon, Geyserus, any sort of deck that makes Black Rose, any sort of deck that summons Dark Arm, JD, that sort of thing. I think this card is just fantastic in the metagame. Anyway, pass the turn back. After summoning Darius, he doesn't Torrential me, which is kind of wild. I thought he would have for sure Torrentialed this, but, you know, he didn't have it. So we're going to go swing for 17. He books, which is a little ugly for us, but I still don't play into the Torrential. I don't want to spend the rest of my hand losing to a Torrential Tribute. We don't have Starlight Road, so it's a little awkward. He's going to go E-Call for Prisma, not going for the Stratos, trying to get the graveyard set up immediately while, you know, our Chariot is dead. He's going to go Prisma, reveal multiple piece, send big piece, activate Trap Stun. We chain Wabaku, and that's going to be pretty much all she wrote. Like, he can't do anything. He loses his Trap Stun. He can't really attack, because if he does, my monster can't be destroyed, and then I can tag out, and then he loses his all his initiative, if not most of his initiative. Anyway, passes back to us. I go ahead and flip the Rediari, or not the Rediari, sorry. I said Rediari because I drew it, but flip the Darius. He doesn't do anything. I Typhoon his back row, randomly hit a return. I'm like, all right, cool. Normal summon Prisma. I decided to try to go for Prisma because then I can go Bestiari into Geyserus, pop both his remaining back row, and then, you know, run over the Prisma. So I thought that that would probably be the best play, but in hindsight, summon Rediari would have been okay too, because I was pretty sure he had Torrential. It was either Torrential or Solemn, but I was pretty sure it was Torrential. Anyway, he draws another Prisma, which is really good for him. So he's going to go Prisma, reveal Malicious Fiend, send the Evil Hero Malicious Edge, and he's just going to attack for 17, which reveals to me that he has maybe 1 play, but not 2. Because if he had 2 plays, then he would have commit 1 more of them to like play through things like Deprison. Anyway, I'm just going to Deprison the Prisma. I can't attack through it with Rediari, so pass back to us. We have Rediari attack. Actually, I special Tiger first. I know it's not bottomless, so I'm going to try and pop his back row in case it's Deprison. I know this deck does play Deprisons. Although, it's a little weird he didn't Deprison the attacks. I figured, blow it up now, whatever. Attack with Bestiari, and now we're just crushing. Even if he has Gorge, we have Chariot. Bestiari can tag out. This is going to be our second Rediari use, I think. Yeah, Rediari is going to banish the big piece Golem. So cut him off of rock monsters entirely, which cuts off Dark Calling entirely. He draws Space Typhoon. He's going to set it, pass. We're going to go ahead and Proving Ground, and he's going to admit defeat. So Swift 2-0 over an RBET top 8 deck. So a lot of the tech cards came into play this match. The Chalice, the Wabaku, really, really strong tech options if you're playing Gladiator Beast. I think they have a lot of applications in a lot of different matchups. particularly the aggressive matchups and also against like hero decks, which are typically a strong, not strong, a terrible matchup for Glads, but Wabaku and Chalice make them a lot more manageable. All right, next match is up against Karlek, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now this match is a little bit more casual, but I wanted to highlight it because there's I lost my train of thought. There's an interesting interaction in this match that happens that you don't see very often. Anyway, opponent starts with summon Cyber Valley. Our hand doesn't really deal with that well. I summoned Darius. I should have probably summoned Murmillo, but whatever. I figured summon Cyber Valley is probably a good matchup for us anyway. I set 2 pass. Wabaku being chainable here is really nice. That means we'll probably get to Geyserus next turn. So if you look at the opponent's hand, he's got Threatening Roar, Call of the Haunted, which is interesting. He's just going to go summon Cyber Valley, pass again. So here we're going to make Geyserus because that was the game plan all along, and then I have access to another Bestiari if I need it. So we'll attack for 2,400, and then tag out, grab Sekitor and Laquari. Sekitor, insane with Wabaku. We're just super far ahead. Like, there's no way we're losing this game, right? You'd think that, right? Anyway, opponent goes trade in, pitch Christia, draw 2, pass the turn back after setting 2 cards and a monster. So in this instance, there's actually a really interesting thing the opponent can do that would win the game immediately. So if we like try to do something here, they can go Threatening Roar, Chain Call of the Haunted, target Christia, special summon Christia, Chainlink 2 under Bottomless, not proccing Chariot, not proccing anything really. We can't attack this turn. We'll just have to pass back. We can't special summon. We can't do anything. And then Christia just beats us. So even though we're like super, super far ahead here, if they make that specific play, we instantly lose. And that's the reason I wanted to highlight this, is just kind of to showcase the strength of Archlord Christia and Call of the Haunted in this format. If you can get a Chainlink 2 Call of the Haunted on Christia, it's like an unstoppable immediate win con versus a lot of decks. Gladiator Beast being one of those decks. But yeah, just wanted to showcase that moment. The rest of the match is kind of like cut and dry. The opponent doesn't make that play, obviously. They actually don't even chain the Threatening Roar at all, which is a little silly. Because what do you want to let my Sekitor resolve? Like, that's fucking crazy. Anyway, yeah, they don't make that play. But if they had made that play, they would have immediately won. I'm not even going to bother showing the rest of this match because, as you can see, the rest of the deck is kind of a meme, and it just never really does anything, and it's kind of just like a Sekitor landslide both games, which is waste your guys' time. Anyway, let's get into the next match. The next match is up against meta contender Frog Monarch. So Frog's kind of taking that second place slot in popularity underneath Vayu Turbo. So Blackwings really declined. Didn't even top the last RBET. Very few people are on it. And right now the meta is a lot of Vayu Turbo, Frogs, and I think the third runner-up is still Blackwings, but it's like kind of tied with like Zombies. Just depends on what tournament you're at. So right now the big two are Vayu Turbo and Frogs, and I think Gladiator Beast does a pretty good job against both those decks. As long as you have the right tech for the other matchups, obviously Blackwings and Heroes and Zombies as well is probably a good matchup for Glads. It's a pretty good metagame for Glads. It also does well into Dragon Turbo. The decks that Glads really struggle with, like Blackwings is tough, but Blackwings is on the decline, which is nice for if you're playing Glads. And then also on top of that, Fairies are not that popular. I think Fairies is a tough matchup for Glads. And I think like other like more aggro decks like DD Warrior Lady Dragons is really tough. Hero Beat is really tough for Glads, but nobody is playing those decks. So as a result, Glads is kind of really shining right now. I just think it's a great pick for any tournament. I'm surprised people haven't really caught on to that as well. Maybe a lot of people don't like playing Glads, myself included. Anyway, opponent starts off with the game 1 Soul Exchange. We know what's happening here. We're just going to chain Compulsory, target our monster, and this is kind of the strength of Compulsory. So all 3 of our tech cards really shining in these first few games I played with this deck, and yeah, so that's why you play the tech cards. They just like come up. They're very nice. We draw War Chariot, which is fantastic. And this will show you guys the strength of Rescue Cat. We go Rescue Cat, activate. It's a 1-card live Sekitor, which is fucking crazy. Like, this should not be legal in the format. I feel like Rescue Cat is a card that, it honestly, upon release, it was a problematic card. But in Edison format, it's one of the top problematic cards for stuff like this. Like, this is just insanely unfair by Edison standards. We get a monster pop, and we get a Heraclinos for one card. Like, what the fuck? That is ridiculous. Like, if you're playing Glads and you're not playing Rescue Cat, you're just playing a nerfed version of the deck. Like, that's how I feel about it, at least. And that's also why you play 2 Sam Knight. As you can see here, we have one of the Sam Knights in hand, but it doesn't even matter because we have the second one in deck. Anyway, opponent just passes back. Generally a sign that they have a hand trap of some sort. We're going to Sam Knight swing. He's going to go Battle Fader. I'm going to War Chariot. He thinks I'm going to attack with Heraclinos, but brother, you are fucking wrong. And he can't use Battle Fader twice because there's only one chain on attack declaration. The way battle works in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is so fucking convoluted and stupid, but basically the way it works is like, there's like the start battle phase step, and then there's like the attack declaration where there can be only one chain, and then there's the battle step, which is after attack declaration, where there can be any number of chains, and then there's the damage step, which there can be any number of chains, but there's a sub-step of the damage step called damage calc, where there can only be one it's fucking stupid. It's really dumb, but if you don't understand it, then you can't be good at Yu-Gi-Oh! So it's just something you gotta, like, play. I was like, I'm not attacking with Heraclinos. The reason you don't attack with Heraclinos here is because if he has Gores, you just get fucked. Like, we can't do anything into Gores. Like, we're first to go, like, Marmillo, pop his guy, but then if he has a Monarch, he kills our Heraclinos. So just wait on the Heraclinos attack. Don't get too antsy. Tag out the Sam Knight. We're going to get Bestiari. Next turn, we can go Equest plus Tiger, get our Chariot back, and start playing the game again. But as of right now, we don't really have to do anything. He's going to go Subsito, tag out, grab Swap Frog, send Treeborn, pass the turn back. And here I make an actually really shitty play. I attack with Equest, and then I attack with Bestiari. Now, my dumbass forgot that Battle Fader ends the battle phase. I thought it was like Threatening Roar, where it like just makes it so you can't attack any further, but it straight up ends the battle phase. So, because I attacked with Bestiari, the battle phase gets ended, and I thought that I could still tag out for some reason. Obviously, you can't. It just cuts to main phase 2. So, yeah, I tried to tag out, but my opponent's like, you can't do that. Oh, and I was like, oh, okay, my bad. My B. This is strangely something that has never come up for me, but it's not a big deal. We can still just Tiger into Quest, get our Chariot. Same shit, you know. Playing the one Quest here, not really punishing us. Tag out, make Geyserus, pop the Fader, set the Chariot, pass the turn. He needs 3 spell cards to beat our board, otherwise he just loses. He's going to sack for Caius. We're going to Chariot. Let's take a look at his hand, because I think he's about to concede. And he's going to concede. As you can see there was a preparation of rights. But imagine that's any spell card, right? Imagine that's an enemy controller. Imagine that's just basically any card that Glads can play. Or not Glads, that Frogs typically plays. It wouldn't matter. We would beat it, because Heraclinos is so broken and Rescue Cat is so broken. So, yeah, sideboarding against Frogs, I like to keep it pretty simple. I like to bring in the Ready Ari, of course. I like to bring in the Chariot, of course. And I do like Dark Bribe a lot, as well as Trap Dust Shoot. I usually side out the Dust Tornado and the Heavy Storm and the Space Typhoon, even against the builds that have heavy back row. You can play through it. It's not that hard. Just tag into Bestiary or whatever. If it's like super heavy back row, I know that there's like a Hero Frog list that's floating around that has like 10 trap cards in it or some shit. You can leave in the Dust Tornado and the Space Typhoon and just cut the Heavy Storm and then cut into D-Prison instead, because I think D-Prison is the worst of your removal against Frogs because the Monarchs can target it. Call of the Haunted is also pretty bad. I usually side that out versus Frogs. And Starlight Road is something that you can consider cutting versus Frogs as well. So against those like heavy back row decks, you could possibly leave in some of your back row removal. It just depends. Those lists are more rare than the lighter back row Frogs though. So like in the dark game too, I just like to side them out because there's a good chance you just break on them. Although it's very possible you should leave them in, because a lot of Hero Frog decks do play somewhere between like 3 and 7 trap cards anyway. So leaving in some number of those cards, maybe just like the Heavy Storm or something, is not the worst thing in the world. Anyway, opponent goes for Pitch Treeborn, normal summon, dupe, pass the turn back. I draw Ready Ari. This hand's not great, but we do have Dust Shoot, which will be live, presuming the Dupe Frog dies. So I'm going to summon Ready Ari to play around Bottomless, attack into Dupe Frog. We have a second Ready Ari too, so if the Ready Ari gets popped, it's not that big of a deal. He's going to Treacherous, pop Dupe, and Ready Ari. And that's a good sign for us because it means we're probably not going to have to play around back row for the rest of the game. And the Dupe searching is great for us too because it means Dust Shoot is live. So pass the turn back. Chain to the Treeborn activation. You want to chain to the Treeborn activation here so that he has the Treeborn Frog lingering in play that you can tag off of. So if we draw a Tiger, we can go like Secutor if we want to. Anyway, I Dust Shoot. I take the Ryza. His hand is like just fucking terrible versus us. Now the correct play from him here is actually to go normal summon Swap Frog, and then send a card, attack for 2,000. And then he should bounce 2 cards. Like he should bounce his Treeborn probably, and he should bounce a Swap Frog as well. He should conserve the resources. I think that would go a long way for him here. Plus it would make his Battle Fader a little bit better. We do end up drawing Test Tiger, so really lucky draw. We could go for Secutor. The only issue here is with Secutor, we don't really have any great like ways to stop a Monarch. Like even if we go into Secutor right now, if he just top decks a Monarch and he like summons it, it's like pretty fucking bad for us. Like it's not terrible, but it's like not great either. You can Monarch our back row and then just attack over our monster and then use Swap Frog to either bounce the Monarch or something like that. But he has a lot of play here if we go in Secutor. However, if we go in, because we know his hand, if we go into Samnite, he pretty much just guaranteedly loses. We want to get the Quest back in the deck, so we do that. We bring out Samnite. Samnite run over one of the Swap Frogs. This is going to get us the search for the Chariot. We're going to tag into, I believe, Rediari. The second Rediari, yes. And we do banish the first Treeborn Frog. Set 2 pass. If he draws Heavy Storm, then he has no other plays. And we can just tag back into a Quest and get back the Chariot. If he draws a Monarch, then we have Chariot. So no matter what he draws here, we're probably winning the game. Straight up. And as long as we keep this Treeborn Frog here, we'll have at least one guaranteed tag disregarding this Battle Fader. So he's going to sack for Mobius, and that's going to walk right into the War Chariot. Here, he just switches the swap to defense, misclicks on declaring it, but he honestly should have declared it and bounced it to his hand. There's literally no reason for him not to do that. He's going to pass back to us. We're going to be able to summon Bestiari, attack Rediari, attack directly with Bestiari. He's going to drop Battle Fader. I'm going to forget yet again that I can't tag out. I'm like, oh, wait, yeah, I can't do that. Main phase 2, just make Geyserus. Geyserus pop. And then he's like, battle phase has ended. I'm like, I know, I'm just making Geyserus. Main phase 2, pop your guy. Because we drew Solemn, we're just big chilling here. We do have like 4 of this type of effect in the deck. Post board, 3 Chariot, 1 Solemn, and then Dust Shoot's kind of like a pseudo 5th. So the fact that we drew 3 of our 5 is really lucky. That's just, I can't deny it. It's very lucky that we drew Solemn Judgment on this turn, because had we not drawn Solemn Judgment on this turn, it would have been okay, I think, but it would have been more of a game. Because Kaya's banished the Geyserus, he attacks, we deprison, right? Then on our turn, we can Proving Ground, summon a monster, attack, banishes the remaining Treeborn. Another, yeah, we would banish the remaining Treeborn. He misclicked and put it to the, but I put it back in the grave. But because we drew Solemn Judgment, it's going to be a really swift one. We're going to be able to attack with Geyserus, tag into Equest, get that Chariot back, and Rediari, banish that Treeborn, and it's just completely lights out. So kind of a best possible draw versus Frogs here. But generally speaking, this deck does have a just fantastic matchup against Frogs. It's those Frog hero variants that can get kind of tricky, and you have to be really careful. They have lots of back row. They have like Alias, which is kind of annoying for you to deal with. They have those Miracle Fusions, which allow them to make 2 plays in one turn as opposed to just the one. So even Chariot locking the hero decks is not, the hero Frog decks is not a guarantee. And I think that because of that, because of the hero Frogs like just more resilient game plan into a lot of decks that are otherwise bad matchups for Frogs, like Gladiator Beast, for example, that's the reason why we've seen such a rise in those hero Frog decks. I think that they're just like kind of one of the better ways to play Frogs into an open field. They're not necessarily the best way to play Frogs in general because it makes your deck a lot worse to Royal Oppression, but into an open field where like there could be some Glad players, there could be some decks that are weaker for the traditional Frog Monarchs, Hero Frogs does pretty well. So anyway, that's going to be it for today's video. I really like this deck. I think it's a lot of fun. I think Forbidden Chalice is cool. I think Waboku is really cool. I love playing decks that get to use chainable Waboku. Waboku is like one of my favorite cards in general. I love like those chainable, like tempo-based cards that just like give you extra turns here and there. Like that's so cool to me. Like how a card that is on paper very bad can be very good in practice for various reasons. So yeah, that's it pretty much. Smash like, subscribe. See you guys at the RBTs. Hopefully, come through, come hang. It's gonna be a lot of fun. A lot of people already signed up. A lot of top players. I'm getting really excited. I can't wait. I literally can't wait for June. It's gonna be a blast. See you guys in the next vid. Peace.